Welcome back, Patriots. Welcome to Sons of Liberty 1773. This is indeed where men and women from around the world gather in defense of liberty. I'm your host, Bill Bailey. So, folks, this is truly alarming. Think about it. Allowing the Chinese Communist Party to float their spy balloon over America's nuclear missile silos is a catastrophic breach of national security. And for China to do so without the Biden administration ordering our military to eliminate the balloon before it could threaten the continental United States is equally terrifying. A weather balloon is a vehicle that could be used to get an EMP weapon over America and then detonated to take out America's grid, satellites, and defense communications. The nation would go dark, and then it's really a first strike weapon just before a full-on nuclear assault. What would happen within minutes? 4, 3, 4, 5, less than 10 minutes of a major EMP strike on America? 250,000 people would be dead. Maybe more. Over 2,000 passenger jets would fall out of the sky like a rock. They're fly-by-wire modern jets. They're not hardened for an EMP like military aircraft. Next, anybody that lives off medical technology, pacemakers probably, life support systems and that. Think of nursing homes and hospitals. A lot of people would be doomed there. Within 72 hours, and this is a government study, it's just a fact, you saw it after Hurricane Katrina. Within 72 hours, there's complete chaos and pandemonium in every city across America when they realize the government's not coming to help and everybody's on their own to survive. There'll be looting, bad stuff. And then from there, it goes downhill and gets much worse because the grid will not be fixed anytime soon. In fact, it will probably take years. Why? Because we need these massive transformers that are special. They take like 2 years to build, and they're built in China for not the little substations, but for the major substations. We don't stockpile this stuff. It's just foolish. It's so stupid. And even more stupid, our government has known about this problem with our grid not being hardened for decades. They could have spent a few $1 billion and this wouldn't be an issue, folks. We wouldn't have to deal with this. I mean, it's America's Achilles heel, is our unhardened grid. Let me share this by Dr. Peter Pry, who is a nuclear weapons expert, and I think he passed away here within the last year, but very smart person. He says, any nuclear weapon detonated anywhere above 30 kilometers over the eastern U.S. would cause a national catastrophe. You could use a meteorological balloon, to get up that high. Last year, an acrobat had himself lofted up into the stratosphere by balloon above 30 kilometers with a heavy skydiving suit demonstrating that you can get heavy objects above that altitude by balloon. We knew it before he did that. One of our concerns was that you could use a meteorological balloon to lift any kind of warhead up to that altitude, 30 kilometers or higher, and detonate the warhead anywhere over the United States, preferably someplace over the eastern seaboard because the eastern grid generates 70% of our electricity, and the country can't survive without the eastern grid. If you take down the eastern grid and all the critical then all the critical infrastructure are going to collapse. And just a reminder, do many of you, I remember it, the Northeast blackout of 2003, when a software bug in an alarm system took out the power grid of like 58 million Americans. And it cascaded. It took out a part of the grid. The rest of the grid tried to fill that void, and it just kept breaking circuits one after another. Domino. You take out the first one, and the rest fall. Our grid is very sensitive. and it's sensitive to a cyber attack, which they've figured out, trust me, or an EMP weapon. Just 3 weeks ago, the FAA had a systems outage that disrupted thousands of flights across the US and Canada. Remember that? Similar problem in not only Canada, but England. And then just days ago, LAX power failure halted the airport for a few hours, and that's being investigated now. And then I pulled this article up. It was in the Epic Times a couple of years ago. I shared this article because I had questions that when I interviewed Arthur T. Bradley, the EMP doctor, and I am going to embed the link at the end of this video, the interview I did with him about a year ago, because it's very educational. You're going to learn from him what to worry about with the EMP and what not to worry about. But I brought up a lot of this stuff, and he answered me, and I didn't feel better after the interview. Let me put it that way. So this was in the Epic Times, December 3rd, 2021. Surprise electromagnetic attack from China, part of Beijing's new blitzkrieg strategy. An EMP attack centered over New York City could cover the entirety of the northeastern United States, paralyzing the power grid and sparking mass chaos. In a report compiled by Dr. Peter Vincent Pry in June of 2020, he said that China assuredly already has super EMPs in its possession. Taiwan military intelligence in open sources credits China with having a super EMP nuclear weapon based on design information stolen from U.S. nuclear weapons labs, or, an old 80-year-old guy and his son in a green Corvette, I believe 67, drove the stuff to the CCP. I'm not so sure it was stolen. Maybe it was, it was stolen. But there may have been some treasonous bastards in America that helped China get it. Industrial espionage is a big thing in this country. And it's the CCP almost always. And these super EMP weapons, not only does China have them, Russia with hypersonic delivery vehicles, but the weather balloon is a great way to let one float into the country once in a while, if you're not going to do nothing, America. And then all of a sudden, the one's got the weapon on it, and it kills the grid, and it kills our defense communications in many ways. Frightening. I will say that we have had many substations now. There's a rise. It's like they're testing. Remember in California, they shot up substation with AK-47s, by the way, and they're shooting. Transformers have oil in them to keep the electricity cool. It cools the juice. Don't quite understand it, but basically that's what it is. And so if they shoot holes in the bottom of those transformers, the oil drains out, and they're trying to see what they can overheat and take out. It's said that if you know which 7 to 10 or 8 to 10 of America's mega substations, if you take them out, the whole grid goes. So, we got to deal with that. Human attack of our substations to take out the grid. Cyber attacks, which could happen from anywhere in the world, and an EMP weapon. Our unhardened grid, America's grid, is our Achilles heel. But our government's more interested in, funding all their corporate overlords and colleges with, shrimp on treadmills. You've all seen that, right? For millions of dollars. And they're doing everything that that our founders, they're doing everything that our founding fathers would not want them doing. They should be keeping us safe and hardening the civilian grid, not only for military reasons, but to protect human life, because they say, statistically, that once the grid goes down, we're so dependent on electricity now that 90% of Americans would be dead within a year. For China, that would like our farmland and to take over this country, physically take it over and live here, I think an EMP weapon is like the dream weapon. That or, some biological weapon that kills the people and leaves the property. Because, it's not radiologically contaminated with fallout. EMP weapon, and, must have been a terrorist group. It wasn't us, America. We didn't do that. We're just building cheap stuff to sell to you. You know what's really frightening about this is we're at a time right now where there's heated anger, if that's the right word, maybe there's a better word, between nuclear nations. The axis of evil, I mean, we're already into World War III, the beginning of it. The axis of evil is forming: Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, some other countries, but those are the big ones. So when something like this happens and the Chinese Communist Party floats their spy balloon over our nuclear silos and this country doesn't respond, I mean, what the hell is going on? And don't think that the World Economic Forum, remember they warned about a pandemic. 90 days later, here's the pandemic. Now they're warning about, guess what? An EMP. Listen to the evil one himself. Pull this up for you, folks.
Our reliance on digital services and infrastructure has exponentially increased due to the unprecedented connectivity which we have established now. From the adoption of large-scale working from home arrangements to the use of cloud services, e-commerce, e-health, e-education. Many tech leaders have noted that within a couple of months we achieved such advancements in digital transformation that would have taken otherwise 2, maybe 3, maybe even more years. This paradigm shift to digital has made the role of cybersecurity as a global public good even more pronounced. We all know, but still pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack.
To a major cyber attack. They're like giddy over it, isn't it? They found a new vehicle to destroy humanity. The COVID didn't do the job, but now we've got this, take out the grid scenario, and we're pretty excited about that. These people are just evil. I can just see him holding up his fist like Darth Vader and shaking it. You have no idea the power of the dark side of the Force. And then I've heard people, folks, and by the way, they're warning about this within 2 years. This happening anytime now within 2 years. This could happen. This major cyber attack to take out the grid. I think they're trying to tell us something. So, and then one other point I wanted to talk about really quick was, let me pull this up right here. People are seen someone comment in a video I made yesterday. Well, China apologized. I told you it was just a weather balloon. What are you worried about? So their weather balloon blew over America, right? Look at this. Secretary of State Antony Blinken postpones trip to China amid spy balloon allegations over Montana. Folks, if it was a weather balloon, if our government thought, no, it was just a weather balloon, do you think it would have messed with his trip to China? I don't. I think it was a spy balloon. And either saying it was a weather balloon, doing weather experiments and other stuff or something, the Chinese said. if the Chinese CCP is talking, don't believe them. They're lying to you. That's my gut feeling. Anyways, we're living in frightening times. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I will, when I upload this video, I will embed the link right here for that interview I did with Arthur T. Bradley, the EMP doctor. I suggest watching it. You'll learn so much. It was one of my first interviews I did, and I was kind of ready and did my homework, and I had a lot of questions I wanted to ask him, and I covered a lot of stuff, and he answered. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He works at NASA. That's what he does right now. So I'll embed that the link to that video right in this video. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please give this video a thumbs up. That really helps push the algorithms out, folks. So if you can always remember when you start watching my videos, just hit the thumbs up. That will trigger the YouTube algorithm to push it out to more people. It really makes a difference. And then likewise, comment down below. I want to hear what you're thinking. I try to read every comment. I get up in the morning and drink my coffee. If I don't read them yet today, I read them in the morning and try to answer everybody. Or I always go through and give a little heart, so it's just so you know I read your comment. And then share the videos. That helps as well. So my advice is, what I'm saying now at the end of all these videos is keep prepping and keep praying, my friends. Put prepping in overdrive. Stack it to the rafters. If you're pretty prepped up now and you consider yourself kind of on top of that, there's always holes that you need to be filling. Fill those holes. But we're living in frightening times. I don't know what happens over the next 24 months. I mean, we're at the cusp of losing our country. We're heading for the greatest depression, I believe, my opinion. And we're already in the beginnings of World War III. So where this all goes, I don't know, but I pray daily for God to heal this nation, for revival. And I always quote Psalms 33:12, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. So with that said, may God bless you and your family and keep you safe. I will see you in the next video. Sons of Liberty out.